Hello, everybody. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas here. I created a video yesterday called Email to the Sheriff, Public Corruption Part 1. It had specific and proven examples of public corruption or police corruption that have gone on here in Midland, Texas. And one thing I referenced here, this was actually my cover photo, was the Midland Reporter Telegram quoting David Criner as the Midland County Sheriff's Office should be managed with integrity and complete transparency. So, I'm praying that he meant that, because when you see this evidence, there is no argument. It's a fact, and it might be an uncomfortable fact because you have police officers that tampered with the evidence and lied on police reports and need to be held accountable. But the facts are the facts, and he has a responsibility. Okay, so here's the email I uploaded to YouTube yesterday. Email to the Sheriff, Public Corruption, Part 1. And there was a short write-up here, and this is not the email I sent to the sheriff, because that's inside the email. That's what I read in that first part, and it's kind of long. It says, a few months ago when David Criner was running for sheriff, he was quoted as saying the Midland County Sheriff's Office should be run with integrity and complete transparency. I pray that he was sincere when he said that. In this video, I read an email that I wrote and sent to Sheriff Criner with information that I believe is connected to Crime Stoppers case where the remains of a young girl were found outside of Midland in 2013. My friend told me about a young girl murdered at a 2010 oil show party going on in October 2010, and I suspected it was the same girl. I also believe these famous and wild parties were going on in the underground home said to be near my home and maybe in the one believed to be in my backyard. This is where former sheriff candidate Joe Lozano was recorded as saying that our late sheriff Gary Painter used to hang out. Proof of that is in another video. That being the case, it makes sense this young girl's murder is connected to the suspected murder of the last homeowner, Mike Lawhon. He suspiciously died the week before the 2008 oil show started, and we may find out that he was murdered by the same people who tried to murder me in 2012. With protests going on across the country about police corruption, I listed out specific and proven examples of Midland police who have lied on police reports, omitted information, tampered with evidence, and obstructed justice in the many crimes here. This is not my word against their word, as it's hard facts and evidence such as security camera pictures, videos, police reports, medical records, ballistic evidence, log files, recorded audio, video, and much more. To cut down on the viewing time, I separated this out in two parts. Part 1 is where I read and talked about the email that I sent to the Sheriff Criner. I sent this email while making the video, so he has it right now. I did the same thing in 2017 with email to the chief, another video. And a month later, Chief Robinson announced he was retiring without ever replying. Part 2 will show the evidence that I referred to in the first video. This isn't an argument. There isn't an argument about this blatant police corruption. It proves without possibility of doubt that multiple police have conspired together, falsifying police records, tampering with evidence, and obstructing justice. This is a crazy story, but it's clear that I'm not crazy. Let's all pray that Sheriff Criner meant what he said about integrity. We can't fix a problem until we admit that we have a problem, and we have a big problem. And then there's a scripture that I quoted on the bottom. King David said, "How much more when a wicked man have killed a righteous person in his own house, on his bed? And therefore shall I not require his blood at your hand or remove you from the earth." And he was referencing King Saul. But the thing is these criminals, whether they're police or not, they loaded their guns and they came to my home, and I'm now crippled for life. And I had been reporting crime to them. I'm a lifelong supporter of the police. I still support the police, but anybody who supports the police should take a stand against police corruption. That said, let's get to the evidence side. And I've got these lined up here. They're not in the exact order as the first video. I tried to group them best I could, and I'm just going to open them up and I'm going to talk about them. Okay, and that's what we're going to do. This here is the flyer that I made during the 6 years that the secret police were secret, okay? Because I get out of the hospital, I find pictures on my security camera of police, I order the police report, and I don't get a report showing any police at my home, okay? I sent these pictures to the mayor, city council, chief of police, sheriff. Nobody would identify them. I finally offered a $2,000 reward. This is an old flyer. The first time it's ever happened in the history of America, a crime victim offered a reward to identify police, and I couldn't get a news story in the nation, and here I've got their pictures, okay? Two of them were recognized, April Chandler and Rosa Rodriguez, and they are main players here. The first two was on video, and they showed up minutes after I crawled out. And 6 years later, we found out that the first one was, the very first one was Martin County Sheriff John Woodward, not even from Midland. Okay, nobody's ever explained that. The second one to show up was the late Midland Sheriff Deputy Mike Naylor that died in the line of duty in 2014. A secret that's been a secret that he was at my house. He was a secret police. The public and the press and the police have kept that secret from the public, okay? But that's what this is, a big con job of what's going on here. And here, the only reason they got caught is they tried to disable the camera and accidentally started it. So, you can only imagine how many times they have done this, and got away with it, This is the one time they got caught. Okay, this is an email, $2,000 reward for information, corrupt police. It's dated January 4th, 2016. And I want to show you, this is the sent to list, okay? And you can see it was sent to the note off, our district attorney, our current district attorney right now. It was sent to Lacey Sparks Morales Love. That was the former city council and mayor at the time. Hotchkiss Robnett. Price Robinson was the chief of police. Sheriff Gary Painter. The New York Times. Ken Paxton is the current attorney general. Inspector General Michael Horowitz. He is the current inspector general of the United States. The Texas Rangers. Remember, in 2016, I sent them an email saying I was offering a reward to identify the secret police. Them secret police remained secret for 6 years with the help of the press. Because if the press would have let the public know what was going on, heads would roll. Because that, secret police gangs is what the Gestapo was. That's Nazi Germany's stuff, literally, okay? So then in 2018, Empire Private Investigations are here, and this is copy and paste from the text message from the Empire Private Investigations, names all 11 of them, because I offered a $2,000 reward, And so, of course, Rosa Rodriguez and April Chandler were already recognized. And then we go down there. That's a lieutenant, Tony Dickey. He was actually inside my home at 11:05, and he wasn't seen arriving on the camera, which means that he came from the tunnel and the now removed trap door. Chatwell, he was MPD. Greg Nelson, I believe he was MPD. Marty Barrett was a crime scene investigator, and that is just huge right there. If we have a crime scene investigator tampering with evidence, think about how many cases this guy has worked on. Murder cases, how many pieces of evidence, and we have to go back and look at everything this guy touched if he's tampering with evidence. And I'm going to show you where he did omit evidence in the police logs, and I believe it was intentional. Chad Simpson, he was the cop that murdered his wife and killed himself 2 months after Naylor died. Mike Naylor was the sheriff deputy that died in line of duty. And there's questions about them I'll talk about in the first video. Mark Gilliam, I don't have any information, but I think somebody told me that he's no longer alive. He moved away, become sheriff somewhere, and now he's dead. So there's and then Michael Glick and John Woodward, the sheriff from Martin County. What I end up finding out of the 11 police caught on camera, okay, at my house, 6 of them are not on the police report. Because the police report, there was one, but it was withheld for 7 years. I didn't get it till 2019. So, and that is not an accident. I mentioned that in that first video. This is the police report that I got in 2019 for the night that I was ambushed and shot in 2012. And it was subpoenaed in December 2013, so it was illegally withheld in violation of the subpoena. And I'm sure, and that was not an accident, because there's a whole bunch of proofs on here that shows that the police were lying on the police reports and et cetera, okay, and tampering with evidence and all that. So I went through it line by line by line, looked at the timestamps, and that's where I figured out 5 police officers were at or inside my home, and they wasn't seen arriving on the security cameras that seen me crawl out and then seen Woodward and Naylor show up. Okay, and right at the same time, but then here's Davis, Dickey, Chatwell, Angel, and Hale, and they're all at or in my home, and they're not seen arriving on camera, and that's how I knew they come in from the tunnels. Okay, so this is the proof right here. You know, I mean, there is no doubt this was sent to the sheriff, so he can look it over himself. You know, I want you to look at itself, and then it also going to show who is listed on the police report versus who the private investigator identified. Okay, and then even additional evidence of April Chandler on the timestamps, because Rosa Rodriguez met me at the 7-Eleven and then climbed in the front seat of my truck, giving me first aid. And then when I got the police reports, April Chandler said she was the one that climbed into my truck giving me first aid, and Rosie wasn't there. They both lied. And this police report shows where Chandler was at the hospital, or it shows that Chandler was at the 7-Eleven when a document at the hospital shows she was there. And it proved that Chandler was lying. And that proved what I was saying. It was Rosa Rodriguez that met me at the 7-Eleven. Okay. Here's the names. Okay. And then, like I said, all this was sent yesterday to our sheriff, you know, a man of integrity. Okay. And so here, paid $2,000 to identify 11 police 6 years later. Okay. And I already read all them names out to you. Okay. And we kind of talked about them. Here's the police report that was illegally withheld for 7 years. Okay. And so you can see it's a much shorter list, etc. And it's what I said earlier. 6 of the names that are here are not over here. Okay. And then there's some over here that are not over there, but that's because they wasn't caught on camera. Okay, because the private investigator only identified who was caught on camera. This was the second entry to my home 3 days later. Okay, and on 2/1/12, there was a police report on it. I did get it, and as you notice, the only police officer seen on both sets of pictures was Rosa Rodriguez, the lifelong friend of the ex-wife I'd filed divorce on 5 days earlier, who's alleged to be involved in the shooting, and basically. They withheld this police report, so I was never supposed to know that they were in my house, stealing evidence, planting evidence, staging the crime scene, and etc. They accidentally started the camera, and they were withholding this police report. Okay, this right here was going to be the only known entry right here. Okay, up until they got accidentally caught on camera, and then it's been cover up ever since. That's what happened. But you can see here was staging the crime scene, and this one was going to be the only known entry. There's 3 days in between it here, and that's when I believe that they covered up the underground trap door the ex-wife had already told me about, from where the evidence shows I was shot from, and where the tunnel was. Ricky Ronaldo said that he used to go into. Okay, and so anyway, them names are sent, and they're all backed up with evidence. Okay, this is the security camera picture. Remember, they tried to disable from the night of 1/29/12. Okay, and at the top I superimposed this, and it was from the police information report, and it was Rodriguez's narrative. And the point I'm making is she says, Buddy said his phone was not charged. Okay, and if you remember, I told this story in part 1 that they stole my cell phone and cut my home phone lines before shooting me. Okay, and then when I get back from the hospital 10 days later, I find my cell phone had been planted behind this nightstand that Rosie Rodriguez is seen leaned over. Okay, I believe she was planting my cell phone because she didn't know this camera was going at the time. And I look at the timestamp, and all the other police in the room had left. So I think April Chandler, I can tell by other pictures, this is April Chandler, and Rosie Rodriguez waited for the other police to leave my room, and then they planted that stolen cell phone behind my nightstand. Okay, so when I got home, I found my phone behind the nightstand, and I found my home phone working, and then I found this live lie that she said I told her the phone was not charged. Okay, and I explained that yesterday. I had the cordless phone in my pocket because my cell phone was stolen, and my cordless phone sat on the charger all the time. It was fully charged. I never said that. Rosa Rodriguez lied. Here's the proof. And so this is a blatant lie on a police report by a detective who I was told just recently is still a detective. And if they'll do this to me, they'll do it to anybody. Okay. This is on 1:30:12. I'm shot on 1:28. Okay, at nighttime at 1:28, 10:42. I'm crawling out at 6 o'clock in the morning on 1:30. April Chandler makes up this lie and calls me and labels me a paranoid schizophrenic. This lie, this section right here, is attached to my name, and every police officer in every single police report since that day, this pulls up falsely labeling me as a paranoid schizophrenic. I wasn't diagnosed with that disease. I don't have that disease. That was a lie to cover up this home invasion and murder attempt. That's all there is to it. That proof's on my side. That's all there is to it. At the hospital, okay, I was cleared by mental health because they had me evaluated because of the lies being told to cover up this murder attempt. Okay, so you can see here, I'm cleared at the hospital, cleared by mental health. But Chandler has diagnosed me with this horrific mental disease and labeled me for life. And she did it to cover up this murder attempt. That's why she did it. Rosa Rodriguez personally called the hospital and tried to have me committed right here, regardless of what the doctors at the hospital were saying. Okay, these are life-destroying lies that have followed me around by these police officers that were involved in the crimes against me. Here's your proof. Okay, Detective Rodriguez climbed into my truck. Okay, remember I told that story again, but how do I prove it? And so here we go. Here's showing the narrative from Chandler where she says she was dispatched to the 7-Eleven. She sees me and she climbs in my truck. She starts applying pressure to the wound to his foot. That's a lie. Rosa Rodriguez climbed in my truck and gave me first aid. I knew that. Okay, so Rosa Rodriguez, she matched the shit, they work together and they come up with matching lies. And she says, I was on call. Detective Chandler called me and I was at the hospital. Bull crap. Rosa Rodriguez, and remember I already showed you, or maybe I haven't showed you yet. Yeah, I did on the police report that it shows that Chandler was at the 7-Eleven and at the same time she's filling out a form at the hospital. And that proves she lied. Okay, so, there's your absolute proof that she's lying. And the one that's telling the truth here is me, the crime victim. Okay. This here in court, Rosa Rodriguez, this is a transcript from the protective order hearing in December 18, 2013. And this court case has been thrown in my face over and over and over again because these lies were told about me. Okay, now let's keep in mind, I wasn't charged with a crime. I didn't commit a crime. Okay, and the ex-wife, who is alleged to be involved in the shooting, right, files a protective order on me when she lived 100 miles away and I hadn't seen her talk to her in a year and a half. And the whole thing was over 2 emails sent that were non-threatening. Okay, and I believe what the real deal was to defame my character, slander my name, and in a way try to force me out of my home. Okay, because the result of these lies, Rodriguez called me delusional, right? And so I think that was a blatant lie, aggravated felony perjury, because I think she knows about the underground facilities, etc. Okay. And then the ex-wife also called me, so they both called me delusional under testimony. Okay. 4 months before the murder attempt, this is a transcript of a recording me and the ex-wife were made, and I'm talking here, and you can find this on my YouTube channel called Follow the Money, and so in this recorded conversation, I'm telling her, I said, you said you're gonna pay me $1,800 to $1,200 a month, or I'm gonna lie in everything you see and tell everybody you're crazy. And she says, I made a mistake. Okay. She made a mistake. She said, and that's what I was saying. You stuck your finger in my chest and says, here's what you're going to do. You're going to pay me. I'm going to tell everybody you're crazy. And she says, I made a mistake, and that's a recorded video. Well, guess what? I didn't pay. And that's what she did. She called me crazy along with her childhood friend she went to elementary school with. Okay. Interesting video. Okay, these life insurance booklets were taken by the ex-wife just a few weeks before Alzheimer's was shot. They showed that if her lifelong friend Rosa Rodriguez, Detective Rosa Rodriguez, would rule my murder an accident, then one, there wouldn't be an investigation, so nobody goes to jail, and gets the death penalty. And it also added 2 times annual base pay and $250,000 employee. That is in addition to the house and everything else. Okay, so that's an extra $500,000 if Rosa Rodriguez labels or calls this murder attempt, or this murder labels my murder as an accident. Okay. And this was read in the protective order hearing. It's communications with the ex-wife's boyfriend, Arthur Welch, right? And he contacts me. I didn't know him. He says, "You think the ex-wife had anything to do with the shooting? I dated her for a short time in Lubbock. She threatened to have me killed." Okay. And here he is again. And so I think she had a lot to do with it from the things she said, and I will never trust her. He later told me that at the time that she was talking to Greg a lot, and he thought Greg had to do with it. Remember, she blamed Greg for the extortion threat, right? It's Greg that told me to try to extort $1,800 a month from you. Wasn't my fault. Greg told me to do it, And so maybe Greg knows something about the murder attempt. All right, here we go. And we're going over these records, which are proof records. What this is the ER doctors. This is emergency room report. And the ER doctor says right angle exhibits a through and through gunshot wound, which appears to be sustained by shotgun blast. Well, remember that I got to the hospital. I had 2 small holes in my foot. I saw it. Okay. The doctor called it a through and through gunshot blast. But Rosa Rodriguez down here says Buddy did not have a right heel due to the injury. Okay, and so Rodriguez once again makes up a lie. Okay, and I think she didn't know that the doctor had said that. So then it was my word against her word. But what I do think she knows is they were faking my X-rays with a guy that was missing his heel bone, and then they took me into surgery and they cut my heel bone out. I think she knows that, and that's why she made up this lie. And where's the proof? The ER doctor confirms what I said. Proven specific examples of lying on police reports. Okay, here's the next one. Okay. According to Rodriguez, April Chandler said, "I told her I was locking up for the night and knocked my gun over." This was another lie. I said that burglar alarms were going off and proof was at my home that she stole. Okay. And so here we go. Here's the Midland, Texas. This is a narrative, and this is from Rosa Rodriguez, right? And she's saying, Officer Chandler spoke with the victim, Buddy. Buddy explained he was locking his house up at night and his 12-gauge shotgun. Buddy said he leaned the shotgun in his wall and it fell and went over. That I didn't say I was locking up for the night. What I said is in the nurse's notes. The nurse, and what happened was Rodriguez and Chandler didn't expect the nurse to be documenting what I'm saying. And then it was my word against their words, and there's 2 of them, right? Plus, they're calling me crazy and all this, right? Because the crimes are crazy, People are in the attic. There is tunnels under this house, okay? And so the nurse's notes, what I said was there's sirens going off. The alarms kept going off. Burglar alarms in my attic kept going off over and over and over and over again. Okay, I was under home invasion, and I was concerned for my life. So I wasn't getting ready for bed and accidentally knocked my gun over. And that's another blatant lie. And here's the proof. The other thing I said, I was talking on a white voice recorder in case something happens to me and saying what they were doing in my house. I had proof. Go look, there's proof. I'm telling Rodriguez there's proof at my house. That voice recorder, I talked about it yesterday, was stolen for the next 2 years, right? And then after I made a point of it, it was hand wrote in on the evidence logs by Matt Davis, okay? And then the last thing here on this one, on the nurse's notes, the nurse made a point to show that Rodriguez was time-stamped in the room when I was saying that, and that she was going to give I think my gold necklace to my brother, and that was odd. So then the question is, does she know my brother that hadn't talked to me in a few years, but my brother says he doesn't know anything about the crimes here. And he's never changed his story. So that's all I got on him. Detective Rodriguez testified that she called my ex-wife. This is transcript from the protective order hearing, okay? And so here it is, the transcript. Detective testifies she called the ex-wife. This is the night I'm shot. Did you call her on the cell phone? Yes, ma'am, I did, okay? Now, the ex-wife in the same court case, okay, says she was contacted in January by his daughter Jennifer Webb, and she requested that I call Detective Rodriguez. Okay, so Rodriguez, it says that she called the ex-wife on the night that I'm shot on her cell phone. Okay, testifies under threat of perjury. Okay, the ex-wife testifies under perjury that she called Rodriguez. One of them are lying, right? And we've already proven that Rodriguez is a big time liar, right? I mean, she got no problem making up just blatant lies against an innocent crime victim. Okay. Here, I'm just going to read this to you because I laid this out. This is what I call the tripwire lie. This is more the transcript from the protective order here on December 18th, 13, right? Okay, there was a tripwire that went across from the wall, from the south wall and the north wall, and it was connected to the shotgun. Okay, this has been thrown in my face over and over. Well, a detective said, what about that tripwire? That's what I always get that. There was no tripwire. I wasn't even shot with my gun. It's a lie. Detective, and she testified in court, aggravated felony perjury. She wrote it on the police records, and she's still a detective. Okay, now let's look here. The evidence shows there was no tripwire in evidence, and none of the other dozen police in my home mentioned a tripwire, including CSI Marty Barrett, that said he picked up my gun from my home and checked it into evidence. This is besides multiple proofs showing that I wasn't shot with my gun. MPD Detective Rosa Rodriguez perjured herself at the protective order hearing, and I got a lifetime protective order taking away my right to own guns for life, leaving me disabled and defenseless while living under the threat of death. She told this same lie in the police information report. It was recently told that she is still a detective. Come to find out, she went to elementary school with my ex-wife, who was alleged to be involved in a shooting by her former boyfriend, Arthur Welch. Okay. And as you see these people that are protesting police corruption, look at these specific and proven examples of police corruption in this home invasion murder attempt. Okay. Here, proof, faked x-rays, and then cut the back of my foot off. On the left-hand side is the medical report from the emergency room. Okay, that was one of my 3 proofs I found where they faked the x-rays. And basically what I'm going is the ER doctor ordered 3 x-rays, 11:35. Okay. This still secret lab tech named user interface, he cancels the doctor's orders. He orders 2 x-rays. Okay, and this happens at 11:41. Okay, and then they return the x-rays that are timestamped 11:27. That's before they're ever even ordered. That was the 3rd proof that my x-rays were faked. And like I said, I've got 2 other proofs. It's absolutely for sure, without a doubt, that they faked my x-rays at the hospital, okay? And I talked about that earlier. I got a feeling that that's why Rodriguez mentions that I blew my foot off when that didn't happen, right? The back of my foot was blown off, and that didn't happen. And I think she made up that lie because she knew they were faking them x-rays, okay? But then here, this is from the police report. Rodriguez mentions amputation on the police report. I think she mentioned it because it was very important for her that they cut off the evidence, my leg. So I think she was working with them doctors to try to get them to cut off my leg because it was going to prove this was a murder attempt, because it looks like it might have been cops that sneaked under my home and shot me. Okay, literally, and that's what they're covering up, and that's why we're having all these lies and tampering evidence and all that. Each one of these, amputation, day after day after day after day. These guys was in the hospital 10 days, every single day. They were trying to talk me into allowing them to cut off my leg, and I wouldn't allow them. That's a longer story. Look at this one on the bottom. Placement as required by police. They were trying to have me committed, the police were, because they're trying to defame my character. A 28-year company man, worked all his life, homeowner, and I buy a rigged home, and I report crimes to police that they're involved in committing. And then somebody tried to murder me, and they're trying to cover it up. And maybe it was police that tried to murder me. Okay, this one, more proofs. MPD officer Matt Davis logs in the .22 rifle and the pistol, but no voice recorder. Remember the stolen voice recorder? I told Rodriguez at the hospital, I have proof. Go look, there's proof. Well, Chandler wrote on her log, she found my .222 guns and my voice recorder, and they were checked into evidence. The 222 guns were checked into evidence. The voice recorder wasn't. It didn't show up into the evidence logs till 2 years later, and it was hand wrote in by Matt Davis right before he quit. Okay, and so it's suspected maybe Matt Davis, he quit the police force after a 12-year career the month of the protective order hearing. Okay, and so maybe Chandler, who was a rookie, and he was a sergeant, so she worked for him. Maybe she gave him that voice recorder, and he's the one that stole it, And I don't know that, but I think the possibility's there. Now here, okay, and I'll just read the top. Rodriguez climbed in my truck at the 7-Eleven. April Chandler claimed on police report that she had done that, so both of them are lying. But I didn't prove it in the timestamps. Police report shows that April Chandler left 7-Eleven at 11:07, arrived at the hospital 11:17, but the emergency detention report that she filled out the hospital's timestamp for 11:03, when she supposedly wasn't there. Also notice she started to write that I shot myself and then scribbled that out. So this is the police report, and I just parsed it for Chandler, and it was showing that she left 7-Eleven at 11:07, and she got at the hospital at 11:17. But this emergency detention form she was filling out at the hospital at 11:03. Well, that's not possible, okay? These two conflict. So one of them is wrong. There was a lie somewhere, right? And what I was saying, remember, it wasn't Chandler that climbed in my truck and first aid, it was Rodriguez, and so they both lied. But on this emergency detention form right here, this is Chandler. She starts to write, Mr. Webb showed paranoia to the extent she started to write, he shot himself, and then scribbled that out. Now, why did she change that? And the reason is because she knew I did not shoot myself, okay? And she changed her wording to say, Mr. Webb showed paranoia to the extent he caused himself to suffer a gunshot wound. And I said that in part 1. How in the world could I be home, minding my own business, under a home invasion and cause myself to suffer a gunshot wound? And what it sounds like is there was a burglar trapped in that bathroom. Police under this home knew that burglar was trapped. They didn't want to arrest the burglar for the burglary habitation felony because that would expose the underground facilities, the oil show parties, the murders, all that. So then they decided to murder the crime victim, the homeowner that was home, minding his own business, and under home invasion. I think the paranoia comment was a reference to, I recognized that I was under a home invasion. I recognized that somebody had been in my house. I tie-wired them door shut, and I trapped a burglar in that bathroom. Okay. But there's more proof of absolute specific proven examples of lying. This one of the security camera pictures of Chandler in my house staring at the bag. Okay, now we figured out 7 years later her name was on the police report. Okay, because for 7 years, for 6 years we didn't even know. We believed it was her anyway because it looked like her, but we had no police report showing she was at my house. There's a timestamp 129:12. This is Rodriguez with the camera right here. Okay. And this is what I said earlier. She wrote in a log, Buddy stated he kept a voice recorder in his closet where he documents all the activity in his house. But he had a .22 rifle in the bedroom by the bed that was taken for safekeeping and logged into MPD as evidence, as well as a single-shot revolver and the voice recorder from the closet. Now, remember what I showed you a minute ago, the evidence logs with Matt Davis's name on it. The 222s were there. The voice recorder was not. It was stolen, okay? And then I made a big point of it, and then it was hand-wrote in on the evidence logs. That's how dirty these cops are. But then he quit, and I think that's who did it. Matt Davis, he did that, and then he quit the police force after 12 years. I don't believe quitting the police force absolves you of crime, and it is a crime to falsify police report. It's also a crime to accessory to capital attempted murder. Okay. I'm going to read the top of this. MPD officers Davis, Dickey, Chatwell, Angel, and Hale were at my home before the security camera was disabled. The only people seen arriving was Martin County Sheriff John Woodward and Midland Sheriff Deputy Mike Naylor, and their names wasn't on the police report, okay, with nobody seen entering my home by the door. This told me they came from under my home, that Davis, Dickey, Chatwell, Angel, and Hale. Okay, and I'm showing the timestamps here that I got, and 7 years later, okay. So Matt Davis and Tony Dickey are at my house here. Actually leave the 7-Eleven there at my house on scene, Matt Davis, at 11:03. Well, remember 11:01's when Woodward and Naylor are seen driving up, but Matt Davis ain't seen, okay? And then at 11:05, Dickey's in my house, no one in the house inside, and lots of odd things like booby traps. That was another lie that I pointed out yesterday, as there's no booby traps in evidence. So that's proof. That's proof Tony Dickey was lying, okay? And lying on a police report is a crime, and especially lying on a police report. But then you ask yourself, how did Dickey get in my house at 11:05 and he wasn't seen arriving on the cameras that caught Woodward, Naylor, and me, okay? And the camera shows where somebody had rotated it to look at the house at 11:22, okay? And so that was a long time right there before 15 minutes before the camera was disabled, okay? and so there's more proof. Dickey lied, and not to mention the police officer. So that has actually made them my top suspects for being the shooter, okay? This is from the video, the security camera pictures, and you can see it time stamped here at 11:01. That was Woodward and Naylor that showed up, and I've already talked about them. I found this online, picture of Lieutenant, and this is a high-level police, okay? In Chandler's narrative, she says, Lieutenant Dickey responded to the residents. And Matt Davis, okay? And I already had that before I got the police report. That was in the information report. You have incident reports, the police report, and then this one had an information report. Okay, I parsed out the police report from that night, and this is pretty much what I showed you earlier, that here on scene. So we see Matt Davis on scene 11:03, Chatwell's on scene 11:18, Kenny Angel's on scene 11:18, and Dylan Hale's on scene 11:19, and the camera out front wasn't disabled till 11:22. So then that's 5 police officers listed as being at or inside my home when they were not seen arriving on the security camera. That's what told me that they came from the tunnel that Ricky Ronaldo said was here, and the trap door that the evidence shows I was shot from. Found this online, Matt Davis LinkedIn, and it shows he was a sergeant detective, and he left the Midland Police Department December 2013. The protective order hearing was on December 18th, 2013. So that was a week after. So somewhere in the week after that protective order hearing, where that evidence come out with Arthur Welch saying he believed the ex-wife had a lot to do with the shooting and threatened to have him killed too. When that evidence come out, then all of a sudden Davis mysteriously quits the police department. Okay, but before that, it looks like he hand wrote in the missing evidence on the logs. Okay, I think a real law enforcement officer, as in Criner and his investigation team, should be asking these questions. This is a cabinet that show from where the evidence shows from where I was shot from under. Okay, I believe that the trapdoor there was removed in 3 mystery days between the 2 police entries. The cabinet was never put together right. Doors, shelves missing parts. The kickboard was missing. And so basically here I'm showing the entrance room, the exit room is 2 inches above ground level. That tells you that the gun was right here, okay? And then the shot was coming this direction. We know that because the evidence shows us that. We know because of where the entrance and exit wounds out, you can get the trajectory of the bullet, right? Or we can tell where the shot came from. Well, we know absolute proof I wasn't shot with my gun, so that means that I was shot from under this cabinet. I believe that was the trap door the ex-wife had told me about. That's what I was showing. And so here's what I'm saying. But the other thing I found out, when Davis wrote in the voice recorder and the used shotgun shells, the spent shotgun shells on the evidence logs, he also wrote in my key, or it wasn't wrote in, but at the same place I noticed he had my keys. Okay, so I'm thinking he had kept my keys, and then he had access to my house, and I was in the hospital for 10 days, and so they come in here, they staged the crime scene on 12912, and then the next 2 days they pulled this cabinet out, and they were filling it up with dirt, pouring concrete, putting it all back, and then putting it back together, and then on February 1st is when Rosa Rodriguez and the other 4 or 5 guys come in with the SWAT team. Oh, yeah, we're going to have a SWAT team, because this guy's crazy, etc. And there was all a con job and a cover-up. But I think that's when that happened. Okay. Subpoena. This is the subpoena before the protective order here. My attorney filed it December 18, 2013. And it says all records. Okay. I mentioned this several times that the police report for the night of the murder attempt, 12812, was illegally withheld for 7 years. And why was it illegal? Because these records were subpoenaed in December. I had already asked for them in April 2012, and they were withheld then, but it wasn't under subpoena. But then when we did it under subpoena, they withheld it again. And why did they withhold the police report? Because it was heavily falsified and incriminating. It showed them 5 police officers were in my house. It showed Chandler was lying about where she was at and who climbed in my truck, right? And so I could read that, but I think I explained it. I'm trying to keep it a little short anyway. Okay, this is in 2019. You can go online to turn in requests to the city of Midland, and that's what I did. It was online request, and I saw a report number I didn't have the paperwork to, right? And supposedly I had all records, so I asked for this report number, right? And then all of a sudden I get the police report from January 28, 2012. That's when I figured out it had been withheld all them years. There was a police report. That's what caused the secret police. That's why I had to pay $2,000 to get them identified. Because they withheld the police report from me. It had pictures, I didn't have their names. Okay, and so anyways, in this request, I said I want a list of all 911 calls for the last 10 years with homeowners reporting somebody in the attic. Okay, and so because I have proof, I have the police reports where I called, and I have multiple calls off the police scanner where other homeowners, specific addresses, dates, times, have called and reported people in the attic. And City Attorney Gates says the enclosed record is the only record in the city's possession, okay, according to the Midland Police Department, okay, and he signed his name. So Gates here, the first city attorney right here, said that the Midland Police Department said nobody has ever reported anybody in the attic, and that didn't include me. When I've got the police report, when I reported people in the attic, and I have proof that homeowners all over Midland, Odessa, Texas, and multiple other states reported people in the attic, okay, and so there's more lying by the police report, by the police. So now you understand why, don't you understand why people are getting together and protesting police corruption? Doesn't it make sense, when you're not even safe in your own home, And so here is the front. It's a screenshot from the security camera. And right after I shot, I crawled out 20 minutes earlier. The first 2 police are seen 19 minutes after I crawled out for being shot. And it was Mike Naylor and Woodward. They were not dispatching their names done on the police report. It took 6 years to get them identified. There they are. There's a video on this. I played it many times. There's a timestamp. Okay, and so once again, that's a falsification of the police record because they omitted this fact, and I have proof of it. Okay. Naylor, this is Midland Reporter Telegram. Gun that killed Naylor was reported stolen. Okay, and I put in here, was Mike Naylor going to snitch about the crimes at my home? Because we know he was the second police officer seen at my house. His name wasn't on the police report, and then he dies, 2 years later. Okay, and they blamed Higgins. Well, you had a whole group. It's kind of like me. When you have a large group of police that gang together and lie against somebody, you ain't got no chance in the world. So I was sitting there wondering this Higgins deal and Naylor, if they were telling them you're going to get the death penalty because we're all lying and saying you shot him when maybe it was the secret police that shot him, right? Because they didn't want Naylor to snitch on them about the underground homes and the prostitution parties, or I don't know that, but interesting, it was a stolen gun, right? I mean, I thought interesting, right? That sounded like a dropped gun. This is the first guy that showed up at my house, Martin County Sheriff John Woodward. There's a picture of him. He's a former, now I believe he's a convicted felon, or at least he admitted to a felony or whatever. But here's what happened while he was in office over there in Martin County. And here, keep that in mind. A sheriff from a different county is the first person to show up at my house after I'm ambushed and shot with my phone lines cut. Does that sound a little weird, right? His name ain't on the police report, and he wasn't dispatched, and nobody explains that, and the news has hid that from the public. That's what's going on here. That's why people are protesting. I mean, they are. I mean, this is a proven example right here of it. Okay, but he got a tattoo from an inmate while he's drunk. Okay, that was this new news story. It's real interesting. Okay. But what I made a point of was the tattoo that he got was Santa Muerta, the saint of death used by cults and drug traffickers. Okay. And, that's where they're glorifying death, and so maybe this guy's the shooter. And maybe he was under my house when I was shot, Okay. Here's the next one. This is a meme I created. Okay, this is a News West 9 article about Midland police officer shoots wife, self, in apparent suicide, a murder-suicide. Okay, that would be Chad Simpson, Midland K-9 police officer Chad Simpson. They had just adopted 2 babies, now are orphans, and there's his mother. So on December 15, 2014, this guy, Midland police officer, is alleged to murder her and then kill himself. Okay. And come to find out, in 2018, he was one of the secret police in my house. And his name wasn't on the police report, just like Naylor. That's 2 secret police that are now dead. Once again, the question has been asked, what if Simpson's, because some people said he was a good guy, what if Simpson was going to snitch on them other secret police and they took him out and they covered it up? Oh, the murder-suicide case closed, it's over. Yeah, don't have to worry about that, But here, my private investigator found a witness that said Chad told him he was in my house. Okay, and this is a screenshot of the text message saying that Chad was the Midland K-9 police officer in my house. Okay, remember his name wasn't on the police report. Two secret police are now dead, and the policeman's wife, and that also has been hidden from you by our press. Okay. I mean, that's why I said our press seems to be a party with organized crime. Maybe they're getting payoffs, getting bribed or something. I don't know. Maybe the people that are behind this are paying for their commercials, or supporting them. I just don't, I can't explain it. Okay. Maybe they had people at these parties, This here, on December 13, 2014, I posted on my Facebook a story called Rape and Murder, the story of the young girl was murdered at the old show party that had police there. Okay. And here's the picture. I posted that picture of the Midland K-9 police officer in my home. That's the secret police picture, okay? And so it's a longer story than that, and here's the story. 2 days after I posted this story of that young girl being murdered at the old show with police there, and this picture, this guy in the picture that wasn't identified in 2018, Chad Simpson, murders his wife and kills himself. So then there's also theories going around. What if Sandra Simpson read this story about this little girl? I said that yesterday. That this little girl being raped and murdered, and nobody to help her because corrupt police were involved, and then recognized her husband. She confronted Chad, and Chad killed her. Also interesting, I sent an email on December 14, 2014, and I think, okay, this is okay, there was 2 emails. I sent this one. I copied and pasted the wrong story in there, and I sent a second email on December 15, 2014. So there was 2 emails sent to former Governor Rick Perry, and who recently resigned from Secretary of Energy, and then the current Governor Greg Abbott. Okay, so they got the story of the girl murdered at the old show party the day that Chad Simpson murdered his wife and killed himself. And this was a now deleted news story, copied and posted. It's CBS 7 and CBS 7, I believe. I copied and pasted it here, but CBS 7 deleted their posted news story. I've noticed that several times with some of working on my phone with some of our news press is they're deleting news stories, and I think it's a clue. Midland Police tells us the investigation is a murder-suicide. Okay, and so Chad murdered Sandra, okay, allegedly. This is interesting. Okay, this is from Chad Simpson. This is all Chad Simpson stuff. This is from his aunt, okay? And she was extremely rude. Annette Elliott Peacock. I know he murdered his wife and orphaned them little babies. She's talking about Chad, But here's what's interesting. You can rent uniforms. That's how serial killers. So she was saying the secret police were not police, okay? And now we know for a fact they are and who they are, And I'm like, sue CBS 7 and the chief police, because they're the one that said the police officer involved. Your nephew, okay? And I'm going, you can clear Chad's name and help me at the same time by contacting the Midland Police Department and demanding the identity of the pictures, because they're the family. I'm not helping you. Call Nancy Grace. So this hatefulness and this attitude and refusal and not wanting them secret police identified has made me suspect that Annette Elliott Peake knows something, information about the underground facilities or Chad or Sandra or whatever. And, obviously he does. Okay. Another one. Okay. 5 weeks before Chad Simpson murders his wife, Sandra Simpson, right? Secret Police Chad Simpson. I sent messages to the mayor and the city council. This one is to Mayor Morales. Can you confirm if any of these people are or were Midland police officers? Remember, there was secret police at the time. Okay. And that was on 10/29/14. And he ignored it. And they all ignored it. Well, 5 weeks later, all of a sudden, this guy murders that guy, or murders his wife and kills himself. Okay. And there it is. So then the question's been asked. I mean, don't they have a duty, right? I mean, would she be alive if they would have identified and arrested these guys? And isn't that the question? Isn't there, if I just tell a person walking down the street, they don't have a duty. But if I tell the mayor that, hey, we got some corrupt police here, and they ignore it, and one of them goes and murders somebody else, don't they have liability to that? That was the question. Okay, this is on the Vivint calls. Okay, and the date on this, 12/19/12, was the second time the Vivint alarm system on my attic window alarm, because a burglar, when a burglar alarm recognized the person was in the attic. Okay, the cops that showed up was Chad Simpson, Stephen Bracken, and then Kevin Bullard. And they refused to look when they got here. And remember, I didn't dispatch to the police my Vivint alarm system. I paid over $1,000 to install a system to prove these crimes are going on. Now we got homeowners documented all over the place are reporting the same crimes. But here I want to show you here that I had to disable this alarm system because I kept getting these letters from the police department about false alarms. And keep in mind that the police that showed up refused to even go up and look. And one of the police officers on that second visit was Chad Simpson, the one that was a secret police that goes on to murder his wife. Okay, so under threat of being fined, I was forced to turn my Vivint security system off. But it did its job. It recognized that I was telling the truth. This police report I talked about yesterday was the first Vivint call. Okay. Where the Vivint dispatched the police to the attic, and the Vivint calls them out, and it was withheld when the reports, all records were subpoenaed, okay, in violation of the court order, okay, in the subpoena to give us the records. And I believe the reason is because they changed that call from an alarm to a warrant, and then back from a warrant to alarm. And that was Michael Chandler, the husband of April Chandler, and then Iliad Amperin. And so I got a feeling that is why they withheld that police report, illegally withheld that police report, because they were going to arrest the crime victim when the crime victim's security system goes into alarm, a valid alarm, and notifies them. I mean, you can't get more corrupt than that, right? I didn't even call them. Vivint called them. Okay, this here, another police report. This is Marty Barrett, CSI. And I said that earlier. If a crime scene investigator is tampering with evidence, then we have to go back and look at every case and every, I think it could overturn, previous convictions, maybe even murder convictions, if we know that Tony Barrett is a dirty cop that tampers with evidence. And, especially if he does it against innocent homeowners such as myself. Okay, so here's the date. I made a deal. He picked up my shotgun from my house. Okay, and remember, he didn't mention a tripwire. Only Rosa Rodriguez did. Okay. And out of my shotgun, he says there's 4 live Remington shells. He omits the size of the pellets. Okay, that's important. I spoke about that yesterday. The size of pellets removed from my foot were 2.5 sizes different than what was in my gun. And they conveniently, and I believe intentionally left out the size of pellets. A CSI intentionally omission is a crime, omitted that evidence, and I believe that was on purpose. But the other thing is there wasn't a spare shotgun shell, okay? And that's what I said, because if I was shot my shotgun, which I wasn't, then that shell was going to be in that gun along with them live shells that he removed. And it would have been Marty Barrett that would have checked in the used shells. I made a point of it online, and Matt Davis wrote it in and then quit the police department. I'm going to show you there in a minute. I think I got it. No empty shell, shotgun shell was found. Okay, and that's what I just talked about. And this is more from the police report. And Barrett, the CSI, is talking. I received evidence from Chandler. I proceeded to my home and I collected evidence from the scene, included a shotgun. He didn't say included a shotgun and a tripwire that was attached to. He didn't say that. Why? Because there was no tripwire. Rosa Rodriguez lied, blatantly lied, perjury in court, lied on the police documents. Okay, and then I just showed you that on the 4 live shells there. Okay, and there's no empty shell. Okay. Okay, this is a proof, okay? And what it's showing, this is from the medical record. It showed the size of the pellets removed from my foot. This is the hanging. I talked about it yesterday. The hanging, the shotgun shell that had fell off my top shelf and was stuck between hanging clothes. And that's why when they stole my other spare shells, the secret police, from my closet, they overlooked this one. And why did they steal this? Why did they steal the spare ones? Because they're trying to stop me from finding evidence showing what size pellets were in my gun. Okay, but I found this. I found that shell. So that's where I knew it was 2.5 sizes different. And that was only one proof showing that that I wasn't shot with my gun. See, I'm here at my house, and I knew burglar alarms were going off over and over and over again. And remember Rodriguez going, yeah, but he said he was locking up for the night, knocked his gun over inside himself. They were lie after lie after lie after lie, okay? And I showed that a while ago. And that shows me the entrance and exit wound shows me the direction of shot, okay? And the trajectory of the gun, okay? The size of pellets do match a Glazer safety slug, okay? And that's a plastic tip, pellet-filled bullet that can be shot from a handgun. Well, that matches the space limitations in that small room. There wasn't enough space for a 4-foot-long shotgun, okay? And then remember, the ER doctor said it appears to be from a gunshot wound. They shot me with a 45 handgun. Now, I believe that because Lisa Rogers said I was shot with a 45. And so here, all these pieces of evidence, the plastic, the surgeon said he removed a lot of plastic from the wound. Because of all that, I believe they used a special ammunition and a handgun and shot me from point blank range directly in an artery with my phone lines cut, to make it appear that I've been shot with a shotgun, and that way they could call my murder an accident and add that $500,000 on, okay? I showed you that while ago. Okay, here we are. This is Barrett and Robinson, that chief of police that quit 2 weeks after I created the video called Email to the Chief, right? He's the guy that got up there and says, I hold my officers accountable. And here I got pictures of a dozen secret police I can't get identified, right? And so I made a video, like I'm doing this one, while making the video, and asked him to identify these and hold them accountable, right? And then he didn't do it. He quit, you know? And that's when he quit. Barrett saying he found my shotgun at the hospital, okay? Email to the, here we go. This is on July 10th, 2018, named Burglar Habitation Theft Services at my home. And this email sent to Seth Herman, the chief of police, current chief of police right now, and then the city council and mayor. And of course, we have a new mayor and a few city councilmen. Okay, and so I'm describing, some of the crimes against me, the burglary. Of course, I first reported burglary in November 2010. A couple months later, first reported somebody in my attic. A year later, I'm shot with burglar alarms go in the attic. At the bottom of here, I went over here and I listed 50 links to 50 video, 50 of them, burglar alarms going off in my house. I mean, a burglar alarm would go off in my attic and I'd get my phone out and I'd make a video and I'd post it. Happened over and over and over and over again. 50 of them. I mean, there's so much evidence and proof, and they blocked my emails. The city council, the chief of police blocked my emails. The crimes still go on to this day. Okay. And so that's public corruption. Councilman Sparks, and he's no longer councilman. I got a feeling it's because of the crimes here, okay? I sent him a friend request on Facebook, and he accepted, and then I tagged him on a Facebook post with death threats that I've gotten, okay? So this is a picture of his Facebook timeline, okay? And one of them threats from Lance Eggleston. He says, remember, we know who you are. We know where you sleep. We have access to your residence at all times. No one will ever believe your story. We will come again. You will be silenced, not if, but when. So, this showed up on the city councilman's Facebook. And you know what he did? He blocked me, and the crimes continued against me. My city councilman. And then he quit the city council. Public corruption. This is a previous homeowner, Mike Lawhon. He died right before I moved in this home. He was alive when I first looked at this home. You know, and that's what I told other people. You need to move, you know. I'm Mike Lawhon, put this home up for sale. He was dead 2 weeks later, right? But what really I think important is he died the week before the 2008 oil show started, and that's got to be important because it's believed there's an underground facility in the backyard where Sheriff Painter used to hang out in, and where they're having oil show parties. Okay, so this is a recent message I got where it's a friend of Mike Lawhon. My friend was talking to a friend of Mike Lawhon, this guy here, okay, and said that he felt like people were in his house. He knew they were getting into his house. So these crimes that I reported over and over and over and over again and made 50 video proofs on, Mike Lawhon was reporting before he died. Let that sink in. Okay. This is the Yawcam log file. That was the inside security camera. I found this when I returned from the hospital. And basically, the day of the murder attempt, I woke up, started my computer at 10:52. Camera automatically started. That night at 8:08, it was terminated. I didn't terminate it. Now, you know, I show pictures sometimes of the last picture of me before I was crawling out, okay? And it was from this camera right here. And so I believe this was done when they stole my cell phone and cut my home phone lines, and they were preparing to murder me. Okay, that's when I think that was done at 8:08, because at 10:42 I'm crawling out. Okay, at 3:16 Yawcam started back up. What happened was the police here, okay, they see that camera, it's attached to my computer, and so what they decided to do is restart my computer, okay, and to kill the camera. Okay. What they didn't know is I had the camera set up to automatically start on reboot. Okay, you didn't have to log in. So when they tried to disable the camera, they started the camera, and that's why we got pictures of the secret police. And that's the only reason we know they were in my house planting my stolen phone and planting evidence on that first entry, is because they accidentally caught themselves on camera. Okay, I mean, and the witness system event log shows that it was a manual initiated reboot. They had to go on my computer and reboot my computer. It wasn't a power failure. They manually, on purpose, with forethought, rebooted. Okay, this is a previous homeowner. So I used to live in that house. He says when I was a kid, there's tunnels under the house. Me and my brother would go into the tunnels. Okay, I got a print screen of that. I'm showing, here's my home. Okay, here's where I shot. Here's where it's believed the underground, one of the 4 underground homes is right here in my backyard, what it looks like based on Google Maps. And you can see right here where the ground's cut, see the difference of the asphalt right there, and it's aimed directly at my house. What I believe was going on is that the people going to the oil show party, which would be a lot of people, would park in front of Home Depot, okay? And then somewhere they go there underground, and they come over here to my house and end up over here with an underground facility. That's where the young girl was murdered, etc., okay? And so a clerk at Home Depot told me one day, you ever see a lot of cars in the parking lot late at night? It's because we're stalking. Well, I hadn't seen that and thought about it, but a lot of people at an oil show party would need a place to park and an excuse, okay? And so here last year in July, I take Homeland, I provide them enough evidence to stop this crime ring, solve multiple murders, and I take them back here. I go back here with Homeland showing them this. I gave them this picture, okay? 2 weeks later, the ground's dug up, concrete is poured there. I got a video on it. I kid you not. And then a couple months later, the Secretary of Homeland Security resigns, and then that week, the Secretary of Energy, Rick Perry, former governor of Texas, resigns, okay? I believe this goes all the way up to that level, what's going on here. It's from Lisa Rogers. You're not disabled with a 45. Well, how'd she know I was shot with a 45? I wondered if her son was here. I think his name is Ryan Cobb. He was friends to, lived out of my hometown of Hobbs, whatever. Okay, this is an operative report, medical record. Okay, the surgeon says there was a large amount of plastic and lead pellet debris. What I'm saying is that proved I wasn't shot with my gun, because a shotgun shell wouldn't have a large amount of plastic in it, right? And a lot of people go, oh no, there's a wadding in there, you know. The ER doctor, my brother-in-law that I didn't know about, right? He said he removed the plastic wadding from the room at the emergency room before surgery. So it wasn't the plastic wadding, but remember the Glazer safety slug is a plastic tip pellet filled bullet to be shot from a handgun that meets the space requirements. The size of the pellets are the same. Okay, that's why I think they used the special ammunition to make it appear that I was shot with a shotgun. Okay. This is what I call the move post, okay? This is a busy post right here. But basically, this is only a few of the many people. When I got out of the hospital, the ex-wife comes by and she says, you don't know how many lives you run with your idiocy. Well, my idiocy staying home, minding my own business, surviving a murder attempt, right? But that told me a lot of people were here. And when it's found out what they're doing, they're going to have lives ruined. Well, I don't know what that was doing. Obviously, they were in the underground facility in the backyard. I don't know what it was doing. It was going to run their lives. But, you know, I figured it was a sex party or something going on down there. And so these people have, and you know, it's this crime ring, what I call them. They've conspired together to terrorize me from my home. Okay, so you have you have some of them that issue these death threats, you know, like this. Fast forward 2 weeks and Buddy Webb's nowhere to be found. He hadn't been heard from. That was wrote to me. I'm going to call him, do a wellness check on you, and he's going to wind up being in a hole. You best start worrying about the snits. You will be silenced, not if, by when. You know, and these are just a few of them. Another guy says you got two choices, move or meet God early, right? What Jeter says, buddy, cops can kill you and get away with it. Stop publicizing their business and you go buy you another home. As you see what's going on, they're trying to terrorize me from my home. Why are they trying to terrorize me from my home? Because this home is rigged with hidden underground access. It's got $1 million underground facility in the backyard. Had also parties where a little girl was murdered. That's why they want me out of this home. It's going to prove all the crimes. The Hobbs Act says you can't conspire with others to terrorize a property owner into selling their property, you know, and a part of that is where you go to law enforcement and you report the crimes. You send them email with 50 videos of burglar alarms going to the house and they block you. Okay, they're conspiring to try to terrorize you from the home. And then you have all the other ones going, I would move if I was you. I'd move. These are different people. Move, you know. And why don't you move out of that house? Sell and move the F out, you moron, you know. You see all these, and these are only a few of them, you know. And like I said, that's 20 years in prison to conspire with others to try to obtain property through threat. And that's exactly what happened. This is a text message with Homeland Security the day that I took them behind the Home Depot, okay? And you know, here he is. We're parked in the parking lot in a white Ford Explorer and a black Ford F-150, okay? So I meet them over there, and I'm just so surprised when I get over there, and this Homeland Security agent says, I don't understand why you don't sell that house if you're living under the threat of death. And I thought, that sounds just like the criminals that are trying to terrorize me from my home. You know, I don't understand why you don't arrest the criminals and we can all live safely, right? You know, and like I said earlier, that you know, 2 weeks later, they're digging up the ground and pouring concrete where I showed him where I believe the tunnels were at, you know. And he admits it. He replies back to me. This is Agent Paul, Homeland Security. Buddy, let's get something clear. I wasn't trying to talk you into selling your home today. I wasn't committing violating the Hobbs Act, and I'm not going to prison for 20 years. I simply asked you why you wouldn't consider selling your home if you continue to film. What? Well, what? Remember, our entire conversation was recorded. I would love to have that conversation where he said that, and I explained the Hobbs Act to him. And then just recently, this guy on YouTube video, please get some help, you know. You ain't a police officer, get help or move. And when I go looking up this guy's name, Leonard Loveland Jr., and I made a video of that, and I found a phone number, and I Googled that phone number, and it went right back to the Midland Police Department. So that told me that he is or was a Midland police officer, this guy, and he ordered me to move from my home, okay? Now remember, I'm reporting burglaries at my home. Everybody has the right to live in their home safely. I worked my whole life. You know, home ownership is the American dream. These people have turned it into a nightmare that won't stop. Now I'm crippled, living under the threat of death, and I'm looking for a good police officer, such as Sheriff Criner, to be honest with integrity and stop these crimes, expose the tunnels, expose the underground facilities, and arrest these criminals, because I think they're involved in multiple murders. This is Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas.